que é a vida. É o princípio da morte. O que é a morte? É o fim da vida. O que é a existência? É a continuidade do sangue. O que é o sangue? É a razão da existência.
In today's esoteric scene, especially the Hyperborean or Northern tradition corner of it, there's a strange assumption that Aleister Crowley somehow belongs in the same lineage. He doesn't. Not historically, not metaphysically, and certainly not spiritually. And the same goes for the pop witchcraft explosion of the 60s, all the way through the 80s, the 90s, and even until now. The psychedelic covens, the velvet robes, the pentagram parties, and the free love magic of the counterculture. The type of individualism, Eastern deity worship that Crowley inspired. The following clips are in no particular order, but they serve to highlight just how entrenched the Crowley-esque side of the esoteric scene has been in our society, all the way from the 60s, well into the 80s, and even up to the modern period. For the most part, I'll let the clips speak for themselves. The following clip is from a 1986 free TV news report on the Santa Teresa Witchcraft program.
Elmer Fletcher, San Jose's chief librarian, who was absolutely delighted that the witches' planned lecture at the Santa Teresa Branch Library this coming weekend has the Christians on the warpath.
I'm not here to have a library that hands out pablum. I'm here to hand out a library that shakes people up and makes people think.
Paula Sia started doing a lot of thinking when her 13-year-old son brought home one of the library's flyers advertising the witches' lecture. She got others in her church to try to pressure the library to cancel the talk.
They stated that this was a religion, and they're aiming this towards the youth, and I feel that this is very harmful to the youth. I feel that they don't need to hear this type of thing. They need more positive things.
The library has dozens of books on Christianity that say all witchcraft is bad. Nearby are a few books on witchcraft that say there's also a positive side to paganism. Why, the same argument can be heard in one of the world's most popular movies.
Witches are old and ugly. What was that? The Munchkins. They're laughing because I am a witch. I'm Glinda, the Witch of the North.
That's a stereotype, honey. That is a Hollywood creation, and it came in with the Wizard of Oz, and I enjoyed that movie immensely myself. You too, Dorothy.
Z. Budapest says the stereotyping of witches by Hollywood is just as inaccurate as the stereotyping of witches by Christians.
I am real. I'm real. I'm not a stereotype, but I'm a practicing witch. My God is Mother Nature. I believe life is sacred. I believe all people's diversity is an awe to me, not only respectful, but...
You tell me, guys. Do you think her last name's actually Budapest? Do you think she sounds very Hyperborean to you?
I'm in awe of diversity.
Her god is most definitely Amana Ishtar.
Again and again over the years, the San Jose Library and the City Council have refused to permit censorship. They believe that if they allow even one book to be removed from the shelves, eventually there'll be nothing left to read. In San Jose, Tony Russomono, Channel 7 News.
And you can probably...
I mean, W Library for the anti-censorship, anyway.
Predict what the end of this story is. The lecture will go on as scheduled Saturday at 1 o'clock. The Christian Community Church members say they will be there at the Santa Teresa Library branch, outside, picketing.
Which? She says the note she just struck on the gong soothes the senses and puts you at peace with the universe. There are also statuettes used in witches' work that symbolize Mother Earth and nature and the elements. Born in her...
Notice how they just blend different elements of mysticism from the East, from the Near East. It's totally irrelevant to these people as long as it serves a purpose. It doesn't matter who they're worshipping.
Hungary, Budapest says the heritage of witchcraft can be traced in her family several hundred years. She says witches do cast spells and hexes, but it's really the gentle art of worship of the earth. None of that stuff you see in the movies.
Hollywood needs bad guys. Let's face it. You don't have drama without somebody being evil. So they pin it on the witch as an archetype.
Budapest is surprised that her scheduled appearance at the San Jose Public Library this Saturday has raised such a flood of protest. She says witches have always been popular with young people, and that's why she was invited to lecture.
Are you still going to go through with the lecture?
You bet.
The San Jose Library has been flooded with calls objecting to Miss Budapest's appearance. Most of the protests are from religious groups who say witchcraft is evil and has no place in publicly supported libraries. And some local politicians say they're right.
And I don't believe any religion, Christian, Buddhist, witchcraft, any type of religion should be brought into the libraries.
But library officials say, public outcry or not, they'll give witch Susanna Budapest a chance to cast her spell on Saturday.
That's what public library is all about. So we will stand fast on that and fight.
The chief librarian here says if he yielded to everyone who wanted to take a certain book off the shelf or stop certain ideas from being circulated, pretty soon you wouldn't have a library. And that would be a terrible loss for any community. From San Jose, I'm Ben Williams, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
And from what Ben heard today, the opposition to the witches' lecture is picking up steam. Some of the protesters are promising a picket line outside the library where the witch is scheduled to talk on Saturday.
There's word
Some of our country's most fundamental principles are being questioned.
A flyer being distributed at the Santa Teresa Library branch invites youngsters to a witchcraft presentation this Saturday. The library's sponsorship has stirred a controversy, though, the key to the uproar being the words goddess religion. Paula Cias wants the witchcraft program canceled. Her opposition is twofold.
I don't feel that there should be this type of religious activity.
Of course they're goddess worshippers. It's all matriarchal. This is exactly what I mean when I say they worship Amana Ishtar. I mean, who else? Who else, honestly?
Going on in a public building, schools are public, and so is the library, okay? And I also feel that witchcraft should not be presented to the youth in this area.
But Z Budapest, a self-described witch, says hers is not a bad craft. She worships Mother Earth and the perfection of nature. That, she says, will be reflected in her program.
The earth religions are fun religions. There's no such concept of you go to hell or heaven after you die. You're supposed to take responsibility right now in your life while you're here. You're supposed to find heaven while you are here. And avoid hell if you can. And keep your mind clean and free of hate and fear.
But Budapest's beliefs are based on false idols, according to Rob Cias. He brought home the flyer that started his mother's protests.
Worshipping the plants and stuff, that's pretty weird. It's idols, it's weird. It's not that many people go around worshipping concrete and cement.
13-year-old Rob's beliefs are concrete, and so are those of San Jose librarians who arranged for the program.
We've had a lot of phone calls about the program. We've had phone calls strongly complaining and strongly in support of the right of the person to express her opinions. And that is where the public library takes a stand, because we are not here to suppress ideas.
Carpio says programs with religious themes have been presented at city libraries before, but without controversy. She also says books on witchcraft and the occult are very popular, especially among teenagers. That's what worries the Cias family.
Notice the normie community actually had a bit of a visceral reaction to this type of thing back then. Notice how fast the normie hive mind will turn on something if they're so directed. I wonder why the Hyperborean sort of Nordic revival movement has caused such a break for such a long time. I wonder if it's the Instagram edits, the Agatha memes, the white monster posting that's sort of keeping the normies at bay for the most part. Or maybe it's just that Christianity's lost a lot of its influence in the West.
What can the police do? There is one witness, and his lips are sealed. Aching terror or complicity. He just isn't saying. But will he ever outlive the memory of those shadows in the night? Shadows thrusting back the tombstones, prizing open the coffins, plunging their hands into the mouldering remnants of the dead. The needle-sharp pikes driven through the dusty skeletons. The police see it as public outrage, maniacal necrophilia. But that's not how the unholy writ of demonology describes it. Viewed from the precincts of the occult, this obscene profanation becomes a formalized ceremonial, the religious observances of the children of Satan, expressing an undying faith in their old religion. And they're not maniacs.
This one's actually hella
they are
creepy,
men and
but I
women
had to
who
cut
live
it
among
along
us,
with it
whom we know and like, people we confide in, yarn to over a beer. They are people striking back at the world of technology through the timeless magic of witchcraft. Today, even the most skeptical of us are being forced to admit that our fiends have often succeeded where science is shackled by material data.
He's not wrong, though. You best believe there's a lot more witches and warlocks out there than you're aware of. A lot of people believe in this stuff that you'd never suspect.
As all good children know, 13th century witches flew to sabbaths on broomsticks, brewed foul potions in cauldrons based on a nourishing stock of the dismembered bodies of newborn babes. Today, thanks to a more liberal and fascinated public attitude, you can meet witches at Speaker's Corner Hyde Park, where even children of Satan are entitled to let off steam, carrying
unison with our primal energy.
Idolatry! I think the lawyers should all be strung up by the neck.
Eleanor practices witchcraft with her coven in a wood that is on the point of being swallowed up by outer London. A man has been laid low by a curse, and Eleanor has undertaken to exorcise it professionally. That is to say, for a fee. The authorized demonic manuals require celebrants to strip naked when casting or exorcising.
And now they're going to perform a blood oath. Whole knot tying ceremonies definitely become a bit of a modern trend again as well.
God of ecstatic intoxication.
This looks like a concerted effort to mock. They ended up just being mad nudity again, but notice how they just co-opt anything they can from Christianity or any other religion, just like Madame Budapest with the little harmonic bowl, all that sort of carry on. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's just like weird feminist earth cult revival. There's nothing masculine, there's nothing northern, there's nothing Hyperborean.
Around after 9 million people were burned, hanged, and tortured.
They can journey into the darkness, where good and evil can become
someone
one.
fact check that 9 million
It's often
figure?
been said that the gods of the old become the devils of the new. In actual fact, witches don't even believe in the devil, let alone worship him.
They were born in an age.
I mean, maybe they don't believe in the devil, but they definitely believe in Baal.
They are witches.
This guy coming up's Hyperborean. Check these psychic powers out.
Beyond what is known lies an unexplored world of shadows and phantoms.
These animations are so sick, I just had to leave them in.
A land that knows no limits of time or space.
I love these old school animations. How's that for an admission? He just psychopathically blasts the Zeppelin out of the sky.
Journey to a universe of the unexplained, the unforeseen, the unbelievable.
Can you believe someone probably got paid big bucks to animate this back in the day?
A place beyond reality where no question will go unanswered. A place where...
This bit reminds me of like a mad Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel setup.
It's time for our journey to begin. to stand at the crossroads between superstition and reality. You are witches.
Is that Michael Caine or am I tripping? I was going to skip this intro, but I can't help myself.
When some of us imagine a witch, we think of a cloaked hag huddled over a boiling pot filled with unspeakable ingredients, or flying through the night upon a broomstick.
In my experience, they probably look like well-to-do yuppies, to be honest.
Which really is, we must journey back to an ancient time when magic was a way of life, and the gods' battle was running out. The ways of the old gods were no longer the ways of the people. The wise priests knew that their magic was no longer welcome. So, on that last Hallows Eve, they came to this spot where the...
Is that not the exact type of transition we're seeing today? The people not following the ways of the most recent god?
Moon touched the earth to put their magic to rest, whispered, for a new god had risen, and his priests would not tolerate the old ways. It was somehow appropriate that they should consign their tools to the soil, for the gods had taught them to venerate the ground, the sky, and they would protect the knowledge until the time was right to rise again. But the whispers would rustle through the dark forests, the silent rivers, the ways of the Wicca would never be forgotten. Their beliefs would live on, their descendants known as witches. Do what thou wilt, and let it hurt none. This is the credo of many modern witches, witches whose rituals take many different forms. There are four basic kinds of witches: hereditary, traditional, Gardnerian, and Alexandrian. Hereditary witches have kept the traditions of magic alive through their families for thousands of years, quietly behind closed doors. Traditional witches pay close attention to...
I find the hereditary thing really interesting. Can you think of a group that has a maternal hereditary lineage?
Take their name from the studies of Gerald Gardner, an English witch and author who died in 1964. Another personality-driven cult is the Alexandrian, named for a modern English witch who emphasized ceremony and codified ritual. Because of their persecution, very little about how witchcraft began has been recorded. This shadowy past has done much to perpetuate stereotypes, but as is often the case, those cliches do have some basis in reality. For example, some witches still use a broomstick during their meetings, called covens. Not to fly, but for ceremony.
The broomstick is frequently associated with witches. They were thought to ride through the air on their broomstick going to the Sabbath site. And this is a distortion of what actually happened in the early days. There was a time of year when the village people would go down to the fields and they would take along with them broomsticks and they would ride astride them like on a hobby horse. And as they danced around, they would jump up in the air. And they felt that the higher they jumped, the higher the crops would grow, is what we would call sympathetic magic.
Another popular witch cliche is the cauldron, bubbling with unspeakable ingredients. In actuality, the cauldron has a far more palatable origin.
The cauldron was used in the early days when witches came from miles around to gather at the Sabbath sites to celebrate the main festivals. And they would bring with them the food that they wanted to eat, having traveled some distance. And they would cook it in a big cauldron over a fire set up before getting down to the religious side of things. This is where the cauldron came to be associated with witches.
The misconceptions surrounding witchcraft are legion, and modern-day witches are attempting to set the record straight.
The most upsetting misconceptions are that witches are Satanists and that we worship Satan or the devil. And witches don't have any Satan or any devils or demons in their belief structure.
People assume that witches are going to do something bad or wrong or hurt them. I have no desire to...
Holy shit, that looks like Mark Zuckerberg. That looks like incredibly androgynous Mark Zuckerberg.
hurt anybody. That's not part of my life.
our motto is, as it harm none, do as ye will. Witches don't believe in harming any living thing.
Witches look like everybody else looks. They're human beings. They're going to have your general yuppie look, your Gucci skirt, your fashion plate, your dungarees. Often, many witches who work in the bank will wear black most of the time, and no one really knows the difference because right now it's very fashionable.
Within witchcraft, there are no 10 commandments, there's no catechism or anything like that. There's just one law, and that law is, and it harm none, do what thou wilt. This basically means that you can do anything you like so long as you harm no one else. And this is really the only law that we find that we need.
Really? Are not hexes and curses kind of part and parcel with the beliefs? I think there's a lot of harming going on behind closed doors. I think this is a bit of a media op.
One of the most startling facts about witches is that there are more of them today than ever before. Their rituals have remained unchanged for thousands of years, though they have adapted to our modern world in occasionally surprising and shocking ways.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they own private islands now.
These are witches' tools. Innocent in appearance, mysterious in function, they're easily purchased in many places. They only become powerful when used as ritualistic tools to summon and control powers beyond our wildest dreams or nightmares.
Hail, Aradia, goddess of the east, powers of air. We invoke you and call upon you. By the breath that is her spirit,
Eastern gods, that's not surprising at all.
send forth your light.
We are not in medieval Germany, nor hidden in the bowels of some castle in England. No, this is Woodland Hills, California, in the United States. And these are modern-day witches. This coven gathers together often and follows the procedures passed down through the ages. Here, they prepare to consecrate the earth, for this is a time of joining, of becoming, and of singing.
We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return. There's so much energy and love that goes around, that comes out of the voices, and even those of us who can't carry a tune to save our life sound great. And you feel that love there, you know, in yourself and in your friends. That's what singing does for me anyway.
These arcane ceremonies can take on many different forms, but they all share one thing in common: symbolic magic achieved by archaic ritual empowered by modern-day belief.
The idea of sympathetic magic is that like attracts like, so that, like in our society, we think of money as being green. If you want to draw money to you, you would use a green candle, or you'd make up...
Manifesting, does that sound familiar? Does that not sound a little mainstream these days?
A little herbal amulet of herbs that are associated with the monetary planets like Jupiter or something like that, and you'd put those herbs together and sew them up into a green sack that you would carry with you, and that kind of thing.
Some modern-day witches argue that ritual needs to adapt to the times, to take on a more contemporary guise. But as in anything, tradition is hard to cast aside. And to some people, the rewards are worth the risks of ridicule.
It's something that brings out the best in me. It's really hard to describe how I feel in circle and how I feel afterwards. It's kind of like runner's high. Really. Feel it flowing around through the hands joined together.
The old ways die hard. Some of the symbols and ceremonies associated with witchcraft have survived virtually unchanged for thousands of years, dating back to an age when magic was a science. In some ways, magic is a state of mind. Through the use of objects and symbols such as these, witches can focus their psychic energies upon any target they choose. These objects are props, if you will, in a strange form of mental theatre.
More Egyptian carry
most
on.
modern-day witches consider themselves to be white or good magicians.
Crystals, yeah.
Though black magic can be practiced as well, and these dark practices have done much to cloud.
There is no white magic or black magic, there's just simply magic.
Mass perception. Magic can be practiced anytime, but on the
I'm not going to point out
days
every
of
single
gathering
difference
called
between
Sabbats,
them and actual
it can be
Hyperboreans.
particularly
Just
potent.
take the
most
distinctions
notorious of these
yourself
Sabbats
and
takes place on
reflect
All
it
Hallows
against
Eve,
what you most
October
align
31st.
to.
We know that day as Halloween, and mark it by following an ancient tradition. In medieval times, fearful peasants would place lit candles inside carved gourds to frighten away marauding witches, a habit that has passed down to today's decorative pumpkins. Black magic and the fear it inspires has led to witches being on the defensive for centuries. That's an understatement when one considers the great witch hunts that took place in the late 15 and early 1600s. Many of those unfortunates accused of being witches were actually persecuted for darker reasons. And the more we
probably in most
understand
world
those
governments at this
reasons,
point.
the less chance there is of witch hunts occurring again. This book, written in medieval times, is called the Malleus Maleficarum, or Witch's Hammer. It's a step-by-step guide into the world of hysteria. It shows in gruesome detail the ways to extract confessions from accused witches. And in these trials by torture, there's no such thing as innocence, only degrees of guilt. In the late 1500s in Europe, a wave of hysteria swept.
Can anyone else think of a group that only has degrees of guilt? Can anyone else think of a people that only possess original sin? Use your imagination.
The land. Organized religion felt that the ways of the Wicca were a grave threat to their belief systems, and the pulpit became a platform for the denunciation and then extermination of anyone suspected of consorting with the old gods.
In Europe, especially during the Middle Ages, when schisms racked the church, there was a move to purify the church from within, and there were many investigations, the Inquisition and so forth. So for centuries in Europe, there had been tremendously brutal witch hunts, and church leaders conducted these. This went on in England as well.
The New World was not immune to these insanities, and in 1692, in the town of Salem in Massachusetts in the United States, the worst of the old world corrupted the new.
There had been incidents of witchcraft in New England for a 50-year period preceding the hysteria of 1692. But when the hysteria broke out in Salem, it was much more dramatic in terms of numbers and the degree of panic.
This panic began innocently. A group of bored schoolgirls amused themselves by dabbling in black magic taught to them by a West Indian slave. This experiment soon got out of control.
In the winter, people were pretty well confined to their homes, and teenagers had very little to do, especially young women. However, they found some entertainment in talking to Tituba, who was a West Indian, and in fact, she taught them some charms and pretended, I think, to read their futures and so on. Of course, they were caught and were asked whether they had been signed on, if you will, as Satan's own, and they said yes.
These confessions soon ignited the flame of hysteria, unprecedented in the Americas. Neighbor turned against neighbor, making ludicrous and unsubstantiated charges that were nevertheless accepted at face value. Soon the courts were busy trying, torturing, condemning.
When the summer was over, 19 people had been hanged. One man had been crushed to death because he would not speak, crushed to death under stones that were placed on his chest. They were called firebrands of hell. And because of this, they were denied burial. Their bodies were flung down Gallows Hill and left for animals to devour.
Soon the fever burned itself out. In all, 24 men and women lost their lives. Salem still remembers its dark past, though some say the full impact of the horror has diminished.
These old animations are super creepy.
I think what I have the most trouble with is the trivialization of injustice. When you see witch key rings and wall plaques on sale virtually everywhere in Salem, it's a little difficult to swallow. I feel it's more like selling Indian feathers at Wounded Knee or ashes in vials at Dachau. I find no humor, I find no eeriness, I find only horror.
There's no such thing.
Preventive medicine for teeth?
For fewer cavities?
Can't be done.
It has. Now Gleam's done it. New Gleam's put preventive medicine in a toothpaste for fewer cavities.
What preventive medicine?
Sorry, I couldn't help it. That's got nothing to do with witches. It's just a toothpaste ad, but check out the physiognomy on this woman. And the voice, I swear, she has to be a witch. She has to be putting fluoride in the toothpaste to seal your perennial gland. Alright, that's all from me. Hope you enjoyed it. Drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. So yeah, I know this video was kind of all over the place, but I hope at the least you found it entertaining. I mean, the clips really speak for themselves. These people do most of the telling on themselves. So just, yeah, take a note of some key differences. Pay attention to physiognomy, to naming, to heraldry. And let me know if you can spot these types out in the wild. Peace.